Okay, Sodom and Gomorrah Part 2. So we did all the pre-deployment training and Michael did not participate. Lot and his family, however, did. So this is in heaven prior to them coming to earth. Deployment. So we came down in spaceship 347, Melissa, and got dropped off 150 meters away from Abraham's house. Immediately after we stepped off the spaceship, there was God, myself, and Michael, and several others who were watching. Once Michael walked off Melissa 347, which is a cigar-shaped spaceship, as I mentioned, Michael started complaining about the rocks and how rough the ground was. I then suggested to him, perhaps you should have worn the footwear I gave you. Why don't you go and grab it? He then said, no, I'm going to go like this. I said to him, you're not going to be able to handle this with those sharp rocks on those bare feet. So Michael was dressed in his white robes from heaven, and he had no footwear on. He then held the sword in front of me and he said, I'm not going to bring this. And he threw it down on the ground and spat on it. It had taken me 6 months to hammer that sword out, and that man just threw it on the ground and spat on it. I then said, fine, you'll regret leaving that there when we enter those towns. He then smirked and said, no, I won't. When we arrived at Abraham's house, Abraham was very welcoming to the three of us, but then instantly Michael started behaving racist. He complained about the color of Abraham and his family's skin. Michael has fair skin. Abraham and his family have olive skin and tan skin. They spend a lot of time outside hunting and farming. Abraham then gave Michael a hiding, beat him up and threw him outside, and then went back inside. I looked at God and I said, perhaps we should just send Michael back to the spaceship. And God nodded and said, I approve. We then got up to leave, and then Abraham spoke to me and he said, is that man going with you into there? He looks and acts and behaves exactly like those people who are from there. I've watched those people from a distance. They're exactly like him. Please don't go there with him. I then looked at Abraham and said, we've already prepared for this, and we've already made arrangements to work around that idiot. He'll make a bigger idiot of himself there, and he might learn a few things. God then stayed at Abraham's house and spoke to Abraham, while I started walking towards Gomorrah. Michael then walked in front of me and said, I'm not going. I said, fine. I shoved him out of the way and kept walking. He then kept getting in the way and he said, the stone's too sharp. I'm not going. I said, fine, don't go. Go back to Melissa 347 and leave. He then chose to continue following me. He became slower and slower and slower. I just kept moving. 50 meters from Gomorrah, I crested a hill and looked down at the sight of both cities, and I was instantly heckled by the locals. They all started to chant, "Rape, rape, rape, newcomer coming, rape, rape, rape." Michael's behaviour then brightened. He ignored the cuts on his feet, which are bleeding everywhere, and started running up to the people and greeting them. He then opened his robe and pulled his penis out and started touching it. I then walked past him while a crowd surrounded Michael and were preparing to rape him. Now I stopped and turned round and went back. I killed about 15 people with the swords, hit Michael in the face a couple of times and dragged him. We walked through the crowd and made our way to an area I knew where Lot was. Lot was bleeding and was unconscious and naked. I picked him up and threw him over my shoulder. I then collected the 2 swords and then started walking towards where I knew Lot's family would be located in Sodom. So when Lot had gone into the town, he'd been beaten, raped, and then dragged into Gomorrah and continuously gang raped. They were still in the process of doing it when I showed up, and I killed the people who were doing it. I then found Lot's family in Sodom. They were inside a barn and were unconscious. Someone had found them and dragged them in there to hide them from the gangs of people that were raping everything. I then applied first aid to Lot and his family. They had nothing to eat or drink. I had bottles of water. I gave them bottles of water, and then I gave them energy bars. That was the only food and drink that I had. There were other types of food that I had, which were the equivalent of MREs. Michael's behaviour became more racist around Lot and his family. Lot had regained consciousness and strength quite rapidly because of the medication that I gave him. He was feeling 100% within a few minutes, and then he quickly noticed what Michael was like those idiots outside. Lot then gave Michael a hiding and threw him outside because Michael was being racist against everyone who had tanned skin. Even I had tanned skin while we were there. Michael, when he was thrown outside, was immediately surrounded by the mob. It had gathered in strength to thousands and thousands of people. They were all chanting out loud, "Rape, rape, rape to the newcomer, rape." And then another voice called and said, "Drown, drown, drown, drown the newcomer, drown." There were 2 groups of people, and they were both friendly to each other, but hostile to all of us. Lot then went outside, and he spoke to the crowd outside. Then he came back in, and then by then his family had recovered with the medication I had given them, and then they followed him and he went outside. I then took both swords and went outside following them because I knew something was going to happen. Michael was standing there pointing at Lot and his family and chanting rape as well, and drown. I then looked around, and then one of the leaders spoke, pointed at me and said, "Rape, rape, rape." Michael then said, "Rape for my batch, rape." I then turned and looked at Michael and said, "For your batch? Your entire batch is in heaven. I rescued all of them. Why are you like this with me?" Then Michael said, "It's for my batch, it's for my batch, it's for my batch." I then said to Lot, "Lot, take your family and go back inside." And Lot said, "I'm offering my family instead of you to be raped." I said, "No, go back inside." I then turned and looked at the leaders of the two towns. I then smiled and said, "Those are my chickens." And with the first sword cut, I cut the first person in half completely, from head to balls. I then proceeded to kill 19 other people. Everyone fell silent after the ringleaders had been killed. Michael just stood there stunned and vomited everywhere. I then got the crowd to help me move the bodies round to the side of the building so it wouldn't disturb Lot and his family when they came out. I then looked at the doorway and saw Lot staring at me, and his family was standing at the windows watching me. I'm the Archangel Daniel, and I'm from heaven.